Ooh. Quick video. I always like to start with this video because when I talk to technologists about technology at work, there's like this automatic thought that we're talking about Excel spreadsheets because a lot of people are still working in Excel spreadsheets right now. And if they're not, they're trying to drive AI or they're trying to drive automation or blah, blah, blah. But the reality of technology at work is it's everywhere, absolutely everywhere. So, I don't know if you can tell, but this is my sister. My sister's a hoofsmith, or a farrier. And so she is doing something here which the first governing body of farriery in the UK started in 1356. And the techniques that she is practicing now, and the techniques that she's teaching to her pupils now, were kind of quite old in 1356. And so, what's really exciting about that is she can trace an unbroken line of the technology that she uses, because let's not beat about the bush. What she is using is technology. It's technology from 1356, but it's still technology. And the thing that's really exciting about her is she's using these capabilities from centuries ago alongside things like WebEx and video recording and new materials and new ways of thinking about horses and alignment and. And so this I always find really exciting because if we go back to 1356, we were already thinking about how do we use technology in work. And if we roll on to 1829 and George Stephenson and his first steam engine and the fact that at that time people were genuinely scared about going faster than 50 kilometers per hour. They thought there would be huge physiological impact from going greater than 50 kilometers per hour. And then we roll on to 1859, and IBM starts to emerge. Been around a while. We start to emerge. We become a real technology company in 1914. Thomas J. Watson is our first CEO, and he thinks there's a market for maybe 5 computers globally. Okay? So where I'm kind of going with this a little bit is technology and the evolution of technology is so old. I mean, it's so old and it's been going on for so long, you think we'd be really good at it. But we have an Institute of Business Value, so the IBM Institute of Business Value, and we do independent studies on almost everything. And we do these with chief execs from companies all over the world. And one of the most recent ones that's come out is about the post-pandemic overconfidence trap. And so, from our perspective, and you will have heard this as well, this whole COVID situation, this whole lockdown situation that we've been through has driven unparalleled speed of digitization and technical development. And depending on the sources that you speak to, they're either talking about 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 years of technological transformation that happened in a 2-year period. It's astounding the things that we achieved in technology at work during those 2 years. The fact that we work remotely, the fact that our kids are going to school remotely, the fact that we are staying connected globally, and still able to continue what we're doing, even though we're on lockdown, even though we can't travel, even though we can't even get to our offices. But the interesting thing about that is that's resulted in the thought that we're really, really good at this. Yeah? And so the myths that we're starting to see come through are business and business leaders are ready for the future. Who feels ready for the future? No. Business leaders know how to manage change. This one's slightly unfair. Some of them do. Yeah? Some of them are better at this. But in fact, still, generally, we're not that great at managing change. Myth number 3 is business leaders have worked out how to manage hybrid working environments. And this is another thing where we think we're good at this. But in fact, if you see what's happening with organizations, they're kind of falling back into old patterns. We want everyone to go back to the office. We want to see people. We want to have our workers where we can actually interact with them. And we see old working patterns starting to come back, which is a bit of a shame, because there are real advantages to some of those hybrid working patterns that we built during that whole pandemic. Myth number 4, and I think this is a really interesting one, and one where I'm just waiting for someone to scream at me, is business leaders understand risk. And what's interesting with the study is if you look at that, this also a little bit comes back to, we hit the pandemic, we went through the pandemic, we managed it, we managed a lot of it with technology, so we think we're okay, we think we can do this. We don't know what the next thing will look like. We don't know what that's going to drive us towards. But I think for me, and for this talk, and you can get into all of those in more detail in the report, but for me the most interesting one is the one at the bottom. Because the one at the bottom is, businesses can't handle perpetual change. This is really not true. Look at my sister from 1356. The perpetual change, the constant change that they've gone through, even though some of the techniques that they use date back to that time, the way that she works now, the way that she operates with her apprentices, the way that she operates with her governing body, there's no way you could have imagined that 5 years ago, let alone 500 years ago. And so this idea of perpetual change being bad and being scary is something that we need to get over that if we're going to really embrace technology at work. So thinking about that a little bit, so to run through a few what's coming in the future of work, what's going to be part of the future of work with respect to technology. Digitization, datafication, virtualization, whatever you want to call it, everything data-driven. We've been listening to that for a long time. For a long time, businesses have had this desire to be data-driven, and we're not there yet. One of the reports that we had looked at how much of an organization's data is being used to drive their sustainability goals at this time. Anybody got a guess as to what percentage of any business's data is being used to drive their sustainability goals right now? You're getting closer. It's about 1%. It's astounding. So we've been in this data-driven transformation for as long as I can remember, and still, we're only using about 1% of the data that's available to look at sustainability goals. And sustainability is so important right now. So digitization, datafication, virtualization, that's still going to evolve, and we're going to see that come through more and more in the workplace. Automation everywhere. And this is something else that is a little bit scary to people, because there is a tendency to think, well, then what's my job going to be? If you're going to automate everything that I do, what's my job going to be? How exciting is that to find that out? And so we're seeing this move at the moment towards automation everywhere, and the opportunities that that's going to open up is huge, but we have to get over the scary bit. AI everywhere. It was fantastic to hear the AI panel this morning. We'll come back to the idea of ethics a little bit later, but what we see coming right now for sure in the workplace is increasing application of AI, and I forget which person it was on the panel that made the comment, yeah, okay, but what do we mean by AI? Yeah? Everything from advanced analytics through machine learning to actual, deep artificial intelligence, all of those things are being implemented more and more and more and more. So this can be really exciting stuff. And sustainability, so I mentioned that already, but sustainability in the future of the planet is going to be increasingly important from the perspective of technology at work. And that might seem like a little bit of an odd thing, but we see it from 2, maybe even 3 dimensions right now. So one is using the data, using the 99% of the data that we have to actually work out what we should be doing. 2 is really thinking about our technology landscapes and making sure that they are also sustainable. And you'll see that we're doing a lot of work at the moment on how to lower the energy footprints of data centers, for example, and a lot of work around batteries and a whole bunch of things around how do I make the technology itself less impactful on the planet. So this will be huge, and we see that happening already. But these things bring us to transparency, governance, and accountability. And that comes back a little bit to this morning's discussion around AI and ethics. This need for transparency in everything that we do with data, in everything that we do with any of the advanced analytics capabilities is so essential. How we govern those things is so essential. And the issue with that at the moment is the complexity is growing, where we're getting to the point where we need those capabilities to help us govern those capabilities. So one of the things that you're going to see come through much more strongly, I think, is how do I use my AI to govern my AI? How do I make my advanced systems police my other advanced systems to make sure that these advanced systems are not doing anything that they shouldn't? And so this is going to be really interesting. And then accountability through that technology chain is going to be increasingly important. And we see this come through in a number of ways, and at least in part due to this rise of the platform economy, and who owns what, and who can access what, and who controls what, and who is then accountable for what happens in those technology environments. But you also see that coming through in big technology companies, where we understand that we have a responsibility in this, and we know that we have to produce the kind of technology that allows you to be accountable, allows you to govern what you're doing, allows you to really have the transparency that you need. And so again, these things are going to be increasingly important, and I think increasingly done better. That's my hope. And this brings me on to some slightly less good pictures, because I couldn't find the good pictures for this. But the idea of responsible computing. And so what you'll see is a number of organizations at the moment coming together to really think about, okay, if we as technology companies and governments and special interest groups want to think about how do we get more responsibility, more accountability, more governance and control into these technology systems, what does that look like? And so now you start to see the emerging concept of responsible computing. And this is really thinking about, okay, how do we make sure the impact is positive, or at least not negative? How do we make sure that our data centers are not using more energy than they need to? How do we make sure our infrastructure is designed to reduce footprint of whatever it is, whether it's energy or carbon or whatever it is? How do we make sure that we develop these responsible infrastructures? How do we think about responsible data usage and therefore have governed data and accountability and the right access to that data? And how do we build responsible systems that are really taking all of that information and turning it into something which is beneficial and positive and not negative? And how do we write responsible code? Is there such a thing as responsible code? How do we get down to that level of, if I write my code well and elegantly, it actually reduces the amount of energy that I'm using in my data center? This kind of thinking is really, it's not been done before, really. How do if I write my code differently, can I reduce my energy consumption? Okay, has been thought about for a little while, but to really do it is a different thing. And then the whole, once you get into the data side, then you start to think about the AI side, and of course you start to think about AI and ethics, and obviously that was the whole panel this morning. But and I forget who it was, but somebody made the comment, okay, but what does it mean? What does it mean to be ethical in AI? And so one of the things that we're doing in combination with a number of other organizations is thinking about what does that mean? And for us, there are 5 dimensions to that. So explainability. Can I explain what the model does? Because I really should be able to. Is it fair? So can I see that this is fair? And David this morning made the comment, we have the technology to do that, but we have to do it. Is it robust? If we're going to base hugely important decisions about people's lives on this thing, it better be robust and it better be secure. So is it robust? Can we get to the right level of transparency? And do we have the right level of privacy so that we are protecting people effectively, and we can explain to them how we got to a decision? So for us, these are kind of the 5 dimensions that we're thinking about right now. Is that everything? Probably not. Is it completely right at this point? Possibly not. But I think what really triggered me this morning is, but what really matters is we keep talking about it, and we keep trying to make it slightly better. We keep working on it, and we acknowledge the fact that whenever we build an AI system or even an advanced analytics system, we can assume that it probably isn't fair. And we should probably check it, actually. So, great discussion this morning, really enjoyed it, and absolutely feeds our thinking as well at the moment around this idea of ethics in this space. It really matters that the technology that we build right now is bringing a positive to the world, in fact, or at least not driving negatives. And that all leads on to security, and I think, again, the future of technology at work is security, and people have talked about security for a long time and cybersecurity, and every organization will have a statement which is, these things are secure by design. But are they? And one of the things that I think is really important right now is that we're always checking, yeah, okay, we've said it's secure by design, but is it? Show me, prove it. And so these are kind of the dimensions that are really coming through at the moment in what we see as the future of technology or the future of technology at work. And so getting much more clarity around these things and much more, what's the word I'm looking for? Much more transparency even about, are we really doing this? Are we really actually making these things secure? Are we really making them ethical? I always assume that the thing is not fair and probably not ethical. So let's go check it. Let's make sure that we're doing that. And I was really happy to hear, I was a little bit late when I walked in, and I walked into the panel discussion, and the comment that I walked into was, all of the technology exists, and it does. And the issues that we have are not technical right now. They're organizational, they're operational. So all of these things are possible. All of the tools exist to help you make AI fair, to help you make it transparent, to actually have it govern what is being done. All of the security capabilities exist to drive that security piece. But organisationally, we're not well set up at this time to really do these things properly and really do these things well. And in the previous panel discussion, Hanneke she used an expression that was totally beautiful, and I didn't write it down fast enough. But we really have to break our thinking patterns and think about how do we set ourselves up to make this effective, to make this use of technology effective at work. And it's not really about the technology. And then we go quantum. And so all of this stuff was hard enough already, and then we go quantum. And I'm telling you, we're going quantum way faster than even we expected. So we built our system, I don't know, 5 years ago now, and I think we got ourselves to 5 qubits fairly normally, and we got to 50 way faster than we expected. And we're seeing that the speed of acceleration of these quantum systems is mind-blowing. And at the moment, they're still a little bit too small to be really impactful, but it will not be very long before they are. And so this is something else that I also want to have in our heads is, and again, it comes back, I think, to something that was said in the last panel. The speed of change is accelerating. It is. And we thought it was accelerating already, and it's accelerating again. And so we have to kind of get our heads around, we have to do this differently. We have to think differently about technology. We have to manage it differently. And how do we do that? And so there are a few thoughts in here. One is, we keep talking about the future and the future of technology. We're here. We're already here. We are in the future of technology. You are all living in the future. Yeah? And we kind of have to acknowledge that. And we have to stop thinking about technology as something separate. We have to really start to acknowledge that it is an integral part of both our personal and professional lives. And it is our superpower. We do amazing things with technology. I don't even know where to start, but I mean, the things that we do in hospitals with technology, you know, the things that we do in education with technology, the things that I see our clients do with technology are astounding. Technology is our superpower. But if we're already there, how do we make this work better? And so way back when I started out as a teeny tiny engineer about 1,000 years ago, everybody started with, okay, it's about people, process, and technology. And they're right. It's absolutely about people and process and technology. But there's a little bit in the middle where all of those things overlap. Nobody ever talks about that. What is that? Do we know what that is? Often. It's purpose. What are we trying to do? What are we actually trying to do? Why are we building this stuff? And this, to me, is then how we think about this differently and how we make this more effective for work, is to say, I can build the most amazing technology. If I don't know why, it's completely pointless. So there are a few things that we need to kind of get our heads around. And good old Thomas, he, kind of missed it on the 5 computers globally, but he hit a few other things quite well. And he really viewed the idea of, when we make these big leaps forward, it's because somebody's prepared to go, excuse me, yeah, I don't care, I'm going to do it this way. I don't care what you think. I'm prepared to stand up. I'm prepared to go do it this way. And so there are a few things that we need to do if we're going to be really effective about moving forward with technology at work and really make it work for us, because I think that's the key. Technology at work shouldn't be about work. Technology at work should be, how do I make the technology work for us? And so we have to get real. We have to get courageous. We have to be prepared to say, this model, and back to Hanneke's comment from earlier, this model does not work anymore. We have to tear this down, and we have to do this differently. And then we have to get over it. And why I say get over it is because a huge number of decisions around how our technological environments have been built are based on either pride or panic. And so those decisions have been made because I know best, I'm going to do it this way, and this is the way I'm going to do it, or, okay, I've got to do it fast, and if I don't do it, I'm going to be in trouble. And neither of those are good positions to make decisions from. And so we've got to get over it. We've got to get over the pride and the panic, and we've got to go towards, how do I make this thing really work? How do I make this thing really do the thing that I need it to do? And then we've got to get creative, because obviously that requires some new thinking patterns. And I don't know how many of you have seen the Nassim Nicholas Taleb book, The Black Swan, or the follow-up book, The Anti-Fragile book. And for me, I really love the way that he thinks about this idea of anti-fragile. And this is about saying, okay, we can be resilient, so we can carry on doing the same thing as we always did, and we can get through it, and we can manage, and we can be fine, and that's all great. And his view is that that is a complete waste of our lives. And what we should become is anti-fragile, where we say, okay, this went a little bit wrong, but actually, I can think of 5 other things I could do now that would be brilliant. And so his whole ethos is, it's all an opportunity. Everything that goes wrong, everything that goes strange, everything that doesn't quite go the way that we want, every time we break something, and I think we want to break some things, that gives us the opportunity to do something new and to build things in a way that really drive us forward and really support us. So the future's here. The future is really bright. The future is technology at work. But more importantly, just as it was in 1356, the future is really people. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And I think the key messaging is we need to take a step back. We need to think about what are we trying to do with the technology at work, and then break the current thinking models that we have around how do we build that up, and how do we bring that, and how do we make it performant for us. So that's what I had to share. Thank you.